You get them to watch what you're doing and draw them in, and then they can see the realities of it. It doesn't have to be, gory like a horror film, right? I mean, yes, there are some images that I have of what my daughter's went through that are not safe for work, that I can't put on social media because it'll take them down. But at the same time, I've also said those are the images that people need to see to realize, what this is and how important it is that turn it into something that draws in people for that type of thing. So that would be amazing. The documentary, number one, would be incredible because it gives you the chance to really tell your story in a way that people could understand it and relate to it, but also then taking pieces out of the book and making them into short stories. It's all great, and I can't wait to be able to not only read this in its entirety, but then to see that stuff move forward as well.
Thank you. I feel like it's the career that's developing into just around my story and around cancer and inspiring others.
It's, everybody takes two different roads, or there's two different roads when it comes to going through. It's that, and the treatment is over or the bell is rung or something like that, you can choose to kind of fade into the background and just almost forget about it, or you can use that, what you've gone through, and turn it into a positive passion. And neither way is a wrong way to deal with it, but that's really the two roads that I've seen so far. A lot of people don't want.
For the longest time, we moved to Mississippi, and I saw it as like a new start because nobody here knew me. And I thought, okay, nobody's going to think of me as the cancer girl, so I can be whatever I want to be. And my siblings did that too. My parents kind of did that. And we just like pushed back all of like the pain and trauma. And then once I started doing my book, it was difficult for my family and for me to bring back some of that stuff that we had just kind of shoved deep down.
And that's another one of those familiar things for me as well, because I know that all of our daughters went to the same school, from school all the way up to 8th grade. And from there, they went to a separate high school. And when our oldest daughter went to high school, she told nobody around about her little sister. She didn't want to be known as the girl whose sister had cancer and who had passed away. She didn't want to be known about it. She wanted to kind of be in her own individual, and which was fine. We let her run with it, and eventually it would come out, but she didn't want to start off her career as kind of people, I guess, I want to say, feeling sympathetic or sorry for her or things like that, but that was kind of her way to deal with it. And again, it's okay. So it's kind of the same thing, move to a new area, kind of start anew, and just, live your life. And, but I think you have taken and run with this in such a good way that not allowing it to define you, but you are using your experiences for good, because you know what you went through was terrible. You should own it, because you're here and you're able to tell this. And everything, you should just own it and not be, I don't want to say ashamed of things, but some people kind of feel that way, but I think you're doing a great thing.
Thank you.
How long did it take you to write the book once you decided that you were going to do it?
At first, it was just reading through all of the blog posts and trying to put it together in a way that, like, in a timeline, and just organizing all of that took probably a month, looking through everything, separating it, putting it on my computer. That took like a whole month. And then I, started putting in the little Maggie quotes and different, parts of the timeline. Some of them didn't happen at the parts that I put them in, but it, built off of what my dad was saying or what I was saying. So I would insert little Maggie quotes in there. And then I went through the entire timeline and journaled about, what my dad said, what I said. And at first it was just journaling. And then I went back and wrote it in a way that made sense for a book. So it took me about a year and a half. At one point, I kind of ran away from it when it got to part 2, where it was a lot of really long hospital stays with my seizures. brain surgeries. It was just a very dark period, and I didn't know how to write about that. So I took a break for like 3 or 4 months. And then eventually I came back to it and was like, I have to face this and it'll be painful, but once I get through it, it'll be done. And it was actually a very healing experience to read all of that, to try to bring back memories and um, ask my parents about certain things where when I was in a coma or things that I don't remember happening or things I hallucinated, because that would happen too. So it was a very long experience, but it was only a year and a half, but it felt a lot long.
That's understandable, 100%. Reliving everything that you've gone through, or having to talk about it and bring it up, it seemed like forever. Do you feel like, or I mean, not even feel, was it difficult to ask your parents these questions or to talk about the darker times and have them kind of relive? Was it hard for them to really talk about it again?
Yes, they understood why I needed to do this and they were very supportive, but almost every conversation that we had about, me saying, I remember this happening, is that what actually happened? It brought back a lot of dark memories for them too. So every conversation would end in, them crying and then I'm crying because they're crying. And yeah, so we would space out the conversations, so that I could write about the conversation right after it happened and then just kind of take a break for a few days and then go to the next one and do it like that.
You having these conversations with your parents and maybe even your siblings, were there things that were revealed to you about your treatments, about your time in the hospital, anything like that, that either you didn't know about or that you thought were different than what they told you?
I didn't realize that the process of me getting diagnosed was so complicated um, because of everyone's ego, like all the doctors. We would, after I got the scan that revealed my tumor, and my neurologist diagnosed me with a brain tumor, he sent me to a hospital to get brain surgery. It was like a 2-hour drive, but he said it's emergency brain surgery. So we told my siblings what was happening and had like a family moment. And then we just went to the hospital. At the hospital, they said that it was just a cyst and my seizures were migraines. And so we went home and for 3 months, we just kind of accepted, okay, this is what it is. And I personally felt like they're wrong and that it actually was a brain tumor. And I didn't realize that my parents felt the same way and that my mom called the doctor and, the hospital that I was going to have surgery. She called him every day and just said something is wrong and it's not migraines. And they became really annoyed with her. She was like pestering them every single day. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how much my parents advocated for me in that.
It truly, it truly is incredible to hear the same type of doctors can have a very ego-driven way that they treat their patients. And it is a shame because one thing that we have noticed along the way is that doctors, especially in this world, pediatric cancer world, can be very territorial. There's something that they've seen and they can treat and they know they're very positive that they want the case. If it's something they've never seen, they don't want the case or they don't want the credit if something goes wrong. And and really the miscommunication with doctors, or, I'm saying this and you're saying I'm right and you're wrong. This is really not the time or place to be playing whose ego is bigger. It's supposed to be about the patient. Especially if you have chosen to go into a line of work that deals specifically with children. It's about the patient. It's not about you know what I mean, a notch on your belt. And it really is truly a shame to hear that is such, again, that's such a common thing that, already the doctor's hands or their toolbox is very limited when it comes to the options they have to treat it. Their ability to work with other doctors or other hospitals or other specialists should not be limited as well.
Right. And it was this one doctor who he didn't run the department, but he kind of acted like he did. And we weren't allowed at that hospital at the time because he was so sure of his diagnosis, and anything that suggested that he was wrong, he just like pushed aside. So when I was re-diagnosed, um, we we went there and a doctor got us in through the back door so that that doctor wouldn't see it. It was a very extreme situation.
Honestly, I don't even know what to say about that. It's so blown away by the fact that doctors in sense have to go through such extreme measures just to do the right thing by their patient. And it's a shame because you're practicing medicine, whether you're in pediatrics or whether you're in adults, it doesn't matter. We're not practicing for your career, for your accolades on the website where they tell you where this doctor went to school. You're practicing medicine for the patient that's right in front of you at that moment. And I mean, I'm just glad, honestly, we'll never put ourselves on a pedestal, but I know that we advocated very, very hard for our daughter. And I'm so glad that your parents did the same thing for you.
Me too.
And did not allow egotistical people to really get in the way of the best course of action. Because, had they not advocated, had they took the word of somebody that was so sure of a diagnosis that was wrong, you and I might not be having this conversation. And so I'm glad, and that's truly amazing. And I'm glad that you found that out and that was really detailed for you, because it's so important. And for everybody, advocate for your children, 100% advocate, and make sure that you understand that when you're in the room, that doctor is only one patient, and that's you.
Mhm.
That's
the main thing I would tell parents is just never stop advocating. Your child is the main priority, and it's okay to get second opinions. It's okay to question treatment. Just never stop advocating.
100%. It is always okay and encouraged. And I would say too that we probably didn't ask enough questions, because you're in that moment. Always wonder, am I asking the right ones? Should I ask these questions? Am I allowed to ask
Right.
these questions? And yes, you are allowed to ask those questions. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're in that room for 10 minutes or an hour. You have that doctor's time at that moment. And if you truly feel there's a different treatment, or if something's not working or whatever, ask the questions. And to be honest with you, most doctors are happy that their parents or the advocates are taking that role to ensure that their children are treated properly and correctly. So don't ever be afraid to do that. And if it is a situation where a doctor and you don't mesh because they don't want to listen, and another doctor, second opinion, all day long. So you mentioned too that your siblings, again, and your brother became a doctor, which is awesome. You mentioned that they had a great impact on what you did. And what other types of impacts would you say that now after the book is out, now that you are looking forward to doing other types of things with movies or documentaries or things like that, do they still play a role in everything that you're doing now?
They're very supportive of what I'm doing. It's still hard for them to look at all the details because there's so much that they didn't know. There were so many times that I was in the hospital and they were staying with my grandparents or staying with friends. And my parents obviously wouldn't tell them everything, And so there's a lot of things that they didn't know. So they still struggle a little bit with like hearing all the details, but they're very supportive of me sharing my story. And my sister did the illustrations. I talked a little bit more with her than anyone about the little Maggie quotes, because she's a really good artist. I told her I'd like you to draw as if you weren't a good artist, as if you were 7. And um, I would explain to her like how I felt in those moments, and she would put herself in my shoes to illustrate it.
Is such deep connection to be able to do that. Not only work alongside your sibling as you're kind of, writing this story and asking them to be involved, but to kind of turn themselves into that younger self and write and draw it as a younger self and how this image would come out. And like I said, I love them, and you can go through and see them in the book, and it's such just a good illustration at that moment. And you would think, right, that's drawn by a young child that's
Yeah.
writing out there, and fooled me because I didn't know that. So yeah, it's really is a cool thing. I love that it not only do we say it's a family diagnosis, but it's also a family journey far beyond everything that happens, whether it's, survivorship and support moving forward, but in your ventures through journalism and, the book and, short stories or, video and film and stuff like that, to have a supportive family around you, so incredibly important, especially when
Yes.
you're just trying to live your life, right? And do what your passion is. And your passion never changed, which I think is another thing to be incredibly proud of, because so many of us, something happens in our life, something, whether it's tragic or whether it's awesome, changes our perspective and pushes us in a new direction. But you
Hmm.
always knew what you wanted to do, and you're continuing to follow that passion. And I don't know what else you could ask for out of life than be able to follow what you love to do.
I was very blessed that, after all the, brain damage and surgeries, having my temporal lobe and amygdala and hippocampus removed, I'm not supposed to be able to like write or to create things. And it was like such a huge blessing that I'm still able to write, and that was my passion all.
It just proves that when you are this strong internally, if you don't show it on the outside, when you're that strong internally and you have such a drive and a heart for something that you want to do, there's nothing in this world that is going to stop you. Not a thing. And it doesn't matter how much has been taken from you, you're giving back twice that much to everything that you're doing and to the world in general. That it just proved positive, to be honest with you. The petty person in me wants to go back to the doctor that said you'd never make it and say, "Here I am. And here's a copy of my book. Go ahead and read it, and then let me know when you want to apologize." But that's just the petty person in me that doesn't need to come out. But that's one of the, I can tell that you're proud of what you do. And I can tell that listening to you that your family's proud of what you're doing, and being a part of everything that you're doing. it it shows, and that's the kind of stories that I want to hear. I want to hear them all, but I love the success, because that means that you've taken is truly a monster, and you've defeated that monster, and you've said, this is what's going to happen and nobody's going to tell me different. So to you, I say congratulations on everything you've been able to do so far, what you will do in the future, because I feel like this is only just the beginning of what's going to continue to happen.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I hope it is just the beginning.
Absolutely. And so is there any, now you've talked about, we've talked about the book, you talked about the possibility of turning it into documentaries, short stories from the excerpts of the book. Is there anything else that you have going on or that you're planning on doing, or maybe is soon to be released or something like that, that nobody knows about, that maybe we can just tell us?
I'm working on a hardcover that should be available soon. I'm also just trying to market it in any way I can. It takes me out of my comfort zone a lot, like even to just do this. But I know that, my story is something that would help other people. And I know that, writing my book and self-publishing it isn't enough. I can't like stop here. I have to take chances. I have to go outside my comfort zone to get it seen and read, and for people to, be able to find it. So I'm going on as many podcasts as I can. I'm doing everything possible to get it seen.
And you're doing all the hard work, and you're putting in the effort, and I think it's gonna show tenfold. I think you're going to have the response that you want to have, and maybe even more. Because when you, like I said, when you have something like this that strikes a chord and relates to so many people that might be looking for a way to talk to people, you probably feel the same way. But I know that when our daughter was diagnosed, we felt like we were on an island. We knew nobody that was going through this. We knew, I think myself and maybe a lot of people in the world are ignorant to the fact that if you ever go to the hospital as a kid or whatever, that 6-7 floors up, kids are fighting for their life in an oncology wing that you have no idea even exists. You're looking for that way to relate to people, and when you can do this and you can show it from the inside, I think you have a special connection that is going to be really awesome. I think a lot of people are going to jump on it and say, this makes so much sense. This is how I felt. Now I don't feel so alone. And that really is kind of the reason that I do social media, the reason that I do the podcast, because it gives me a way to not only share our story and relate to people, but give them something to relate to. And I do not have the talent for this. I don't. This is a special kind of person, and I don't have the talent to write a book, but I can speak it. And that's my opportunity. And what you're doing is a way that people can sit down and I have a flight on Friday, and so I'll be on the flight with this will be with me. And I think that's awesome. So whatever you do moving forward, make sure you just continue to get out there and let people know what you're doing, and don't ever be afraid. Come out of that comfort zone, because that really gives you a chance to meet the people and to meet the community that you are going to be so inspirational and important to.
My biggest distribution goal is to get it in hospital gift shops, because I know that's the main place where, I was in the hospital for about 2 months at one point, and my parents would go to the gift shop to get books, to get games for me, stuff like that. Uno was a big one, and they would, just find stuff at the gift shop. So I feel like that would be the number one place I want to see it.
And that is a great goal. And you're right. We frequented the gift shop all the time when we were just heading, you know what I mean? Nothing else to do, and
right.
went down there, and to be honest, like, there's a lot of the same stuff that you see in there, but to see something like that, and also it's personal, right? It's personal to somebody that's been there. That's a great idea. And I don't see any reason why you'd ever have an issue doing something like that. And I hope for the best. And as a matter of fact, that's a good idea, and I like it. And I'm going to steal it just a little bit. My wife, we actually just got the proof today. My wife wrote a children's book. That is,
really?
Yeah. So there's relatable kind of to children that are going through not only cancer, but anything. And our goal would be to get it in as many hands as possible. And, being in a place where the kids are, that is really an amazing idea. So I'm going to run with that one too. But yeah, that is a great goal. And
maybe her book will be next to mine.
Love it. I would absolutely love it. It's, like I said, I'm not the writer in the family. That's her. It's definitely is a talent. And if you have it, you just own it, and you obviously have proven that you do. And I'm excited to be able to share this story with everybody, and hopefully it helps a little bit. And you can continue to push and do everything that you're doing in such a positive way, and not allowing any of this to ever slow you down or tell you that you can't do it.
Thank you.
Was there any advice? I know we did some, but is there any advice that you would like to give not only children that are going through this or that will be diagnosed, unfortunately, in the years to come, but families in general, advice that you would give them from your perspective as not only a cancer warrior, but a survivor?
From what I've seen, like observing other families going through this, there's two ways that families react to it. One is it brings them closer together, and two is that it drives them apart. And I would just say that um, my advice is to cherish the time that you have with your family. And sometimes, you're in the hospital for a while. Sometimes you just don't get to see them as much. And so when you are with them, just cherish that time and use that time to connect with them and build relationships and, tell them what you're going through so that they understand when, you're gone for a while, they know at least a little bit of what's happening. My sisters didn't know a lot, but my brother did. So that made us very tight friends.
Want to touch on one thing, and it's when not only can it bring you closer together, but it can tear families apart.
Mhm.
This diagnosis, this disease, this fight, this journey, whatever you want to call it, brings you closer together because you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. It brings things out in people that you didn't know were there. At the very same time, not only does it tear families apart because of the time, right? I have two other daughters that when I was in the hospital with JC, I had two other daughters at home that I missed a lot of time with. I missed a lot of events. I missed a lot of sportings and concerts and things like that. I always regretted not having that time with them, and I've tried my best to really make it up, even though no, they are not mad at me for that. But at the same time, I'm mad because I missed that time. It's a lot to make up. And, there's also the other side of it is there's an 80-20 rule. And 80% of couples will break up over this not because of the diagnosis or the lack of love. It's because it is so stressful,
Mhm.
and beyond belief. And so is very much a 50-50 right down the middle with this. And so you're right. Cherish every single second, cherish every moment, never take anything for granted. And if you can say yes, say yes. Put your phones down, turn the TV off, just talk and just be there because that's time you'll never get back.
Mhm.
So that
And
is,
let them be there for you as well.
that is hard to accept help, right? To
Mhm.
accept a shoulder to lean on, to accept, any of that stuff. And we're still learning all these years later on how to accept help because much as we don't think we need it, and it's okay to say I need help. It actually shows how strong you are to ask for help. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the people listening about not only your book or where they can find it, anything that you have coming up that you would like to share?
Not that I can think of. I think I've said pretty much everything.
Okay. Well, so the book is called Pearls, okay?
Yeah.
A memoir of childhood brain cancer and hope. And I'll hold it up so you can see it there. Got mine on Amazon, but I know you have a website, correct? What is it?
Yes, it's authormaggiebushway.com. It links back to Amazon, though. Amazon's the main place you can get it, but I am working on distribution to get it into bookstores.
Perfect. All right. So everybody listening, I would encourage to go and check this out, check out her website and purchase the book just as a way to really kind of not only support somebody that has been through this, but they are sharing their story with the world and looking for a way to inspire and not only help other families as well, kind of going through this, but also give yourself something to read that is going to be truly impactful. Let's put down the fiction and let's read the real stuff. Okay. That's the way I am. And so I wish you the best. And I thank you so much for taking this opportunity to speak with me, going outside of your comfort zone and sharing with us your story and your journey up until this point And I'm look forward to see what you do beyond today.
Thank you. And I'm so blessed to be able to reach your audience as well.
Thank you so much. So for that, I will say thank you again. And then I will say for everybody else, we will see you all next week.